classified triangles, we're going to look at what are perpendicular and parallel lines. Some of you might have heard those words before, and today we're going to practice identifying if a line is perpendicular or if it's parallel. So I'm going to write perpendicular and parallel lines. Page 120. Okay, so let's write our objective. So today I will learn about parallel and perpendicular lines. Okay, so we're pretty much going to be working on identifying, is it a parallel line or is it a perpendicular line? So let's look at the difference between the two. So a parallel line parallel lines are two lines that will never meet. So they run on forever in both directions because they're lines, but they never intersect, they never meet. They're just constantly two lines, kind of like this paper, right? All of these lines are parallel to each other, they never intersect, okay? So, for example, if we have line A and B, it is parallel to Q and R because they're two lines that run in the same direction, but they never meet. Some examples of parallel lines are things like trees that are like planted on either side of the street, two sidewalks that are on different sides of the street, the crossing lines like in the carpool lane, those two double lines that are yellow that you can't cross. Those are parallel because they run together in the same direction, but they never meet. So they're just constantly like running like this. So all of these lines are parallel to each other because they don't meet. They just run in the same direction. Okay, and then the symbol that's used for parallel lines is this. So it's pretty much like two L's that kind of run on forever. So the symbol of this is showed to represent parallel lines. And I kind of remember parallel as a kid because these two L's are in it. So parallel, I think, oh, those two L's, that means that it's parallel. That means that they run in the same direction. So these two L's are kind of like my hint when I can't remember the difference between parallel and perpendicular. I think, okay, in the word parallel, there are two parallel letters that run in the same direction. Your lines can also, they don't necessarily have to go straight across. It could look something like this, where it's at an angle. So let's say you have like X and Y, and then you have M and N. They're still parallel, even though they're in a different direction, because they're still two lines that go on forever and they will never meet. So if this continues on here, that continues on there, it doesn't matter how far they go. They will never meet, so they are parallel. So how we would write this one is we would say AB with my line on top is parallel to line QR. And how I'd write this one is the same thing. Line XY is parallel to line MN. Okay, so that's parallel, two lines that will never meet. Think of the double L in the word parallel, and in the word parallel there are two lines that never meet. So that's how I remember that one. And then our next one is perpendicular line. So it's pretty much the opposite. So perpendicular lines are two lines that meet at 90 degrees. For example, if we have line A and B, and then in the middle is another line that crosses it, let's say it's X and Y, we would say that these lines are perpendicular because they're two lines that meet at 90 degrees. So 90, 90, 90, 90. Examples of perpendicular lines would be like when you get to a street, like a crossing street where you have the four different directions and they're all meeting at one stoplight. This is kind of like a stoplight, right? So this would be like Myrtle Street, and down here would be like downtown Monrovia, and then this would be like Foothill. So they cross at this intersection of Foothill and Myrtle, and that would be considered perpendicular lines because those two streets are crossing into each other. An example of a parallel street would be like Huntington and Foothill. So like Huntington is a little bit lower, and then Foothill is just a little bit higher, but they run in the same direction. Okay. Another one, remember, it could also be at an angle. So you could have C and D, line C and D, being crossed with Y and Z, and those would still be perpendicular because they're two lines that meet at 90 degrees. So our symbol for this is, it's kind of like an L, and then you put a little line at the bottom. So that is the symbol for perpendicular lines. Okay, so you're not going to have any practice problems. It's a pretty simple concept. You just need to recognize the difference. So parallel lines are two lines that never meet and go on forever. The double L in the word signifies that they're parallel because the symbol pretty much is in the word, which is helpful. Perpendicular lines are two lines that meet at a 90 degree, just like a stoplight. Okay, so tomorrow you'll just practice determining if a line is a parallel line or if it's a perpendicular line.